Welcome to the July edition of Campus Connections. Today, I have someone with me that most of you already know, Kevin Lovaincy, the Executive Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. We talk about this all the time, but for people who might not know what DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion is, and especially nowadays when DEI is not often understood, can you help explain a little bit about it?
To simplify it, let me paint a scenario. We're having a barbecue at the school. When I think about diversity, the aspect of that is we are going to send out an invitation to all students, faculty, staff, alumni, community members. It doesn't matter what your background is, you will be getting that invitation. The equity part. Some people have ways to get to the school to join the barbecue, and some people do not have any ways. So you can have an invitation, but if people can't get there, it's not equitable. And the last component is inclusion. So you get to the barbecue and maybe they're playing a little bit of music. The inclusion part of that is I'm inviting you to the dance floor. What song would you like to hear? What do you like to eat? So what's important to understand about DEI is those three acronyms have to be together. Diversity cannot work alone, equity cannot work alone, and inclusion can't work alone. I really try to practice looking at intersectionality. It's a term used to identify how do we look at an individual with multiple layers and what happens when those layers meet oppression. So if I look at Dr. Pedraja, he's a man, he's a Latino man. You can't separate those two traits. What happens when Dr. Pedraja faces oppression? He's not only facing it as a man, but he's also facing it as a Latino man as well too.
So basically, it's not reducing a person to one trait.
Exactly.
Not just picking one piece.
Mm-hmm.
There's different levels of power, there's different levels of life experiences that make the whole of a person.
So when I think about DEI and how I got into this work, growing up, I used to thought my mom was very argumentative. But what I realized as I got older, it's like the principle of advocating what is right. And she did that a lot within her community. And I felt like that trait has passed down in the work that I do. And I had aspirations to be a lawyer. From that, I had a passion of helping marginalized families navigate the law system and help them understand it so they're able to advocate. Interpreting the system, navigating the system, and helping those who look like me is not always easy. So that's what kind of drove me to do DEI work within higher education, where it can be seen more accepted. So when I think about DEI and how it supports the college community, the students that we serve, they're not your typical 4-year students, right? So we have students that are 18 all the way to 80 years old. The majority of our students are part-time, meaning that they're juggling life responsibilities. Whether they are a parent, have to go to work, some may be homeless, but they all have that commonality that they're striving to get their education. So if you're going to have a really diverse campus, DEI just ensures that these voices are being heard and they have the customized support that they need.
So can you describe what your department does and some of the things that you're working on, or particularly the ones that have been implemented?
What I love about the DEI department is we get to collaborate with all the departments on campus. So that can be through policy, through programming, through curriculum, academics, professional development. When there's an opportunity, if there's a gap, how do we fill that space? How do we fill that gap? Right, I'll take a lot of the feedback of my peers on how to implement something. We get to do a lot of trainings that the students get to also sit in on. So the second part of the question, what are some things that we've implemented? One I would like to highlight is our DEI certificate program. We will be the first community college in New England to have a DEI certificate program. And what that program aims to do is to support faculty and staff how to engage with students nowadays, how to have conversations, being aware of someone's background and the life experiences that they bring into that classroom, and how to create that sense of belonging. Another implementation is our Manager Academy, providing managers with the tools to manage. So when you work with people from different backgrounds, there are different cultural contexts that you have to be aware of as a manager. Lastly, what I'd like to speak on is our live name policy that we implemented to provide any community member on our campus display the name that they go by each day. That name may be different from what was given to them at birth or given to them by their parents.
So how can an employee, anybody here that's part of the QCC community, support DEI initiatives or be an ally of the work or an ambassador for it?
Continue to work when no one's looking. I think that's extremely impactful to do that. Find ways to educate yourself continuously, not just only by going to programmings, but maybe you talk to a friend from a different background. Maybe you take the ownership of doing some research on things that you may not understand.
The work of DEI is about changing hearts and minds, to helping people respect one another, accept one another. So someone out there that wants to really change a heart and mind, what would you suggest?
The power of intervening in creating a voice for yourself. You walk by a coworker and maybe you see that there's a disagreement. Right? Just being able to intervene and support your colleagues. Taking every opportunity of any trainings that we put out there.
A lot of discrimination and some of the injustices that we see come out of either fear or ignorance. As educational institutions, I feel like we have a role in advocating for engaging with others and opening yourself, becoming vulnerable, but also allowing others to share their experiences with you.
I want to continue to emphasize the power of conversations on some of this. And I think it can happen right at QCC. A lot of the platforms that we create for folks to come in is where you're going to get somebody's engagement. So I always encourage you, if there's a chance to partner with someone that looks different from you. And when you do that, that's what covers some of the biases that you may have. It closes the gap on some of the ignorance that you may not know until you have that conversation.
Why is it so difficult for us to have those conversations?
We're humans. We have feelings based on your lived experience, everything that you went through in life. It can make it difficult to have these conversations.
And I know you've also done a lot of work in policy, dealing with some of the structural issues.
Something that we do good at QCC is reviewing these power structures, whether that's through policies or different systems that have in place, and examining why is it marginalizing one group over another group. What we can do is continue to find ways to remedy any of the power structures that we may have. Always reviewing, is this equitable? If it's not equitable, what do we need to do?
So as you look into the future, what do you hope to see in terms of DEI here at QCC?
If I'm being honest, the state of DEI is being under attack. What I would envision for QCC, what I hope is that we still find a way to be committed to DEI and find ways to uphold that. Regardless of what policy may come in place or what may be passed, we still find ways to be Worcester's home and provide that DEI that students need coming into here. I think that would be like my vision for QCC.
So basically it is a hope to make sure that people are welcome here, that they feel they belong, they feel their voices are heard, and that they're included.
Absolutely.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Campus Connections. I hope you enjoyed our discussion and hope you have a wonderful rest of the summer.